Hello there, you guys. It's good to see you. Welcome back to our Old Masters for Young Players series. And today we are looking at the Zwei Menuette by Bach. And today we're on the viola and we're on page 8. So this is linked for you below in the YouTube description. And for those of you on Patreon, there is a picture with all my scribbles there. In the post there should also be a link to this etude as well, as usual. So for those of you on YouTube, hello as well. You're just watching this at a different time than those of us on Patreon. Before we jump in, I do want to just say and remind you that if you are on Patreon, there is an event for you at the end of each month called the Virtual Studio Circle. And that's our time to just share what we've been working on during the month and hold a little practice performance space for those that want to try seeing what it's like to be in the spotlight. It's kind of scary, isn't it? But if you have a nice, friendly group, it's not as bad. And it's just our little opportunity to just have some community time and to know and hear what everyone's been up to. So I would love to hear you play it if you feel compelled or anything else at all. That's usually the last Friday at 7:30 of each month. 7:30 Eastern time. So let's jump in. The first thing that we're going to look at is the key signature. So the key signature tells us where we're going to put our fingers. So we've got two sharps. We've got an F sharp and we've got a C sharp. And if we give the minuet number 1, there's two of them. We're going to look at minuet number 1 today. If we look at the first minuet, you will see that we're on the D string. There's a little bit on the G string. There's like a little mini moment on the A string, but there's nothing on the C string. So let's just take a minute. Let's get our hand pattern starting on the G string. So we have G, A, B, C sharp, and D is right next to it. So let's play that. And of course, one of the things that's trickiest is having that third finger be high enough and fourth finger be low enough. Let's hop over to the D string. So we have D, E, F sharp, G, and A. So we've got our basic hand pattern on this one. And on the A string, it's going to be the same. A, B, C sharp, D, and E. All right, so we got two hand patterns. Let's try and remember those if we can. Another thing, just before we get started, we're going to look at some of the articulations we have. So we have some little dots either below the notes or above the notes, and those are going to be spiccato. So if I play the third measure, you see how I'm picking up the bow? And in the fourth measure, so the bow is coming off the string a little bit. And typically we try to do that in the lower part of the bow. So it is tricky to play piano in the lower part of the bow. We could try playing it in the upper half. You can definitely do that. But you're just going to have to make your way back down here to really do the spiccato with more ease. We typically do it there because up here it's just really hard to control. So the other thing to watch out for is the overall dynamic. We have piano, and so we're going to be kind of closer to the fingerboard, maybe FB for fingerboard. So I'm going to be playing in this area maybe. And lastly, last little bowing at the end of minuet number 1, line 4. First ending, there are some portado bows there. Do you see that? Portado is when you have a few notes in a slur and they have a line over them. So portado is a lovely stroke. All you're going to do to separate them is you're going to lift some of the weight off the string. If I keep it on the string, it sounds kind of hard at the end. But if you kind of lift the bow just a little bit, the bow stays on the string, but you can see I can lift some of the weight off the string itself. So I think with that, let's give it a try. I'm going to put this at 120 and we'll see what this one sounds like. Oh, there's also kind of a couple tricky things on the last line of line 4 there. So con grazia, with grace. 1, 2, 3. Ooh, it's lovely. So let's look at line 4 just really briefly before we wrap up for today. Line 4, we have this little syncopation rhythm. Syncopation is when you're changing not on the strong beat. So the strong beat would be 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Syncopation when you're changing 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3 and. So you're off the beat. So the beginning of line 4, we have 1 and 2 and. So that would be a syncopation. 1 and 2 and 3 and it just kind of shakes up the rhythm in an interesting way. And then in the first ending, you have you have B, A sharp, B. So A is here. A sharp is right behind your second finger. Your fingers are either a whole step apart or they're squished tightly together. There's no in between. It's either a whole step or a half step. So you're going to just put your first finger, which is A, right behind the B for your A sharp. All right, and also, last little side note, where is the end of this entire piece? Is it the end of minuet number 2? Or do you see a fine somewhere? You see fine in the end of line 4 there? So what will happen with these little minuets is you play the first one completely through, then you're going to play the second one, which we'll look at next week, completely through. And then you're going to go back up to the first one again. It says minuet 1 da capo at the end of number 2. So we go back up to the beginning, play it all the way through with all the repeats, and you'll end in the fine. Just remember, these are dances. So you'd want to revisit them again. You'd want to do all the repeats and everything. So I think with that, you guys, I will let you enjoy this one. I hope you enjoy it, and I'll see you all next week where we look at minuet number 2. Lots of love.